Dr. Gietz, you are the Global Director for Corporate Affairs for Imperial Tobacco. This Friday, the 20th of May, sees the second transposition of the EU Tobacco Products Directive. This is a whole new swathe of regulation and legislation concerning your product. Can you tell us a little about it first, please?
Well, indeed, this is an historic day because the product directive was introduced 2 years ago, and now 2 years later it will be enforced, put in place, implemented. It brings huge changes to the way that we make, market and sell our products across 28 member states. A hugely complex exercise, which is made even more complex by the fact that only 13 of the 28 member states have to date adopted that directive, because that's all it is. It needs to be translated into national law. Only 13 of 28, not even half, have adopted it into national law. So, of course, we have worked for 2 years on being compliant, and it's been a huge cross-functional exercise. But our question now is, as of Friday, what are we expected to be compliant with? We will follow national law wherever we do business, obviously, but it would have helped if all 28 member states had, within the 2 years that was given to them, actually achieved this. As it is, they haven't, and that makes it even more complex.
Who can be blamed for that, though? Who can be blamed for the delay in terms of the remaining member states coming up to speed? It's not as if it's the EU's fault as a whole. Would you say it's because of the complexity of the legislation that has made these countries not bring it into line quickly enough?
I think with every country the situation is different. With every country there are different reasons why they've not got round to actually doing it. So I'm not in the naming and blaming game, but of course we would appeal to governments in those countries that have not yet done it to do it as quickly as possible, so that we have certainty, and also to do it taking into account our expertise. Nobody will ever know more about our business than we do. This is not just in the tobacco industry the case, it's in any industry. And we would like to be able to contribute to intelligent laws that are actually effective, that work, and our voice, I think, should be heard.
Clearly this legislation has been put in place from a health perspective. The tobacco industry is the big bad wolf concerning health, even though you do acknowledge on your site and in your publications that yes, tobacco causes health issues. Don't you feel that the reason for this legislation being brought in is, at least from a good altruistic perspective?
We are fully aware of the fact that we make, market and sell a product that's different from any other product. Go on our website, we acknowledge the potential health impact of smoking on smokers. I quote, "Smoking causes serious diseases in smokers," end of quote. We're not here to argue that. Realizing this, and realizing also that 25% of the adult population across the whole EU still smoke, and realizing also that we sell a product the price of which, on average, 80% of it is taxes in the EU, and it's legal. We fully support public health goals. We fully support the objective of reducing the health impact of smoking on the population, but we would like to have intelligent laws that actually work. And in order to achieve these, the more we are heard, the more we can contribute in a totally open and transparent way, as I'm doing now, the more I think governments will end up with laws that work and achieve their aims. We don't make laws.
Do you feel that these new laws, this new regulation, I think you touched on this when you were speaking earlier, do you believe they'll have a negative impact on the jobs in your industry?
Well, jobs in our industry are often lost, especially in manufacturing, when, on account of excessive taxation and excessive regulation, the legal market in tobacco products declines, and we therefore have an oversupply. So there is a direct link between the closing of factories and these legislative and regulatory measures by governments. I emphasize the legal market, because that does not necessarily translate into a reduction in smoking incidence. It does translate, however, in a huge rise in illicit trade, because let's not forget one thing: the smugglers don't collect taxes for the government. They will always have the cheapest product in the market. But what's important also, they have no qualms about selling to children.
Do you smoke yourself, Dr. Gietz?
I don't smoke. I'm a never smoker. The fact is, it never happened to me at the age where, unfortunately, most people start smoking as teenagers, and this is something that really should be addressed by governments. It never happened to me. However, that doesn't mean that I don't do other things that people might find silly. But the important thing here is really protecting the young, protecting teenagers, and there are many studies from around the world that go into the question, what makes a teenager want to try that first cigarette? I can tell you one thing: the packaging never features in any of them. It is a number of reasons that trigger this desire. It's peer pressure. You want to be part of a group and be with your friends, hang out with them. It's the example of parents, of older brothers and sisters. It's what I would call problems of adolescence, low self-esteem, stress at school, etc., etc. That's why kids start smoking. And those countries who have realized this and have introduced what I would call intelligent education programs, which address these individual factors, have been very successful in reducing underage smoking. Germany is the prime example. Between 2000 and 2016, the German government, by implementing these intelligent education programs, has reduced the smoking incidence among teenagers from 27% to 7%. Now that's a success story.